Finally, for today, Apollo will be discussing their Soteria Dimension detectors, which incorporate unique optical sensors that streamline the design and enable flush mounting. Using a combination of infrared LEDs and photodiodes, the sensors detect smoke particles, while chamberless technology eliminates dust and insect ingress to reduce false alarms. The shock-resistant metal faceplate is fitted with anti-tamper screws, ensuring that the detector is completely secure. Designed to minimize safety hazards in healthcare and custodial environments, it can be used in hospitals, contingency wards, quiet rooms, mental health wards, and prisons. Following the presentation, you can join the live Q&A using the link below. Enjoy!
Hi, I'm Mike Sutton, Regional UK Sales Manager, and today I'll be hosting this webinar where we'll discuss Soteria Dimension and its applications. Soteria Dimension is the latest addition to the Satiria family of products. As with the rest of the range, Soteria Dimension is future-proofed with backwards and forwards compatibility. Whether you want to use the device on a 1992 XP95 panel, a 1995 Discovery panel, or the very latest Core Protocol control panel. Soteria Dimension has an innovative flush-mounted design and uses chamberless technology for fire detection. It has been designed to work in niche applications. The Soteria Dimension optical on the left blends seamlessly into its environment. Its low profile makes it ideal for high-end commercial and high-end residential sites that require a premium aesthetic design. The Soteria Dimension optical specialist on the right has been designed with anti-tamper and anti-ligature features, including a shock-resistant faceplate, making it ideal to protect the most vulnerable in care and custody. Now we'll watch a short video from Liam Arstle, the Head of Product Management, discussing the research and innovation behind Soteria Dimension.
Hi, I'm Liam Arstle, Head of Product Management at Apollo Fire Detectors. During our research with customers, we found that there was a need for a detector to protect the most vulnerable people. These could be found in custodial suites, in detention centres, in hospitals, and all sorts of other applications. We focus on innovation in our industry, and that, coupled with what our customers needed and wanted, created the Soteria Dimension range. The Soteria Dimension Specialist detector comes with a metal faceplate and with anti-tamper screws, meaning that it is great for environments like custodial suites, in mental health care units, or anywhere where they may be subject to damage. And because of this, they also have anti-ligature properties, which mean that they are safe to use in these environments. As with all Apollo detectors, we do everything we can to ensure that they can be adapted and used on our systems. So Dimension, like other products, is backwardly compatible, enabling it to be used on the different protocols that we have. If you require any more information, please visit our website or contact your sales manager.
This image shows the IR beams that cross and create the virtual chamber 2.5 centimeters below the faceplate in order to be compliant with the standards. The IR transmitters pulse 18 times per second, and the device requires comparable signals received on both the A and the B channel to instigate a change in the analog value. This allows for the covering of a single window by an insect, for example. We also include filters to remove the effects of direct and indirect sunlight on the device, thereby overcoming many of the problems found in plateau. Next, we'll watch a short video from Dr. Phil Watson, our Head of Research, describing how the Soteria Dimension device works and some of the challenges faced during development.
So how does Dimension work? In short, it works just like an ordinary smoke detector. And a normal detector, a normal optical smoke detector, has an infrared light source. That light source is normally fired across the chamber in an ordinary detector, and a light receiver that picks up that light when it's scattered by smoke. Dimension works just the same. We have an infrared light source. The difference is it's shining out of a window outside the chamber. And then just in the small area in front of the detector, if there's smoke present there, it will scatter light back towards a receiver that's looking through a separate window. So in some ways, it's just like a normal detector. It uses infrared light scattering. But the difference is it's happening in the outside world. So the infrared light receiver can see everything else that's going on, like daylight, like artificial lighting in the room, like insects moving around in front of it. So we have to put in extra sensors and extra intelligence to make sure we can still detect the smoke and not be influenced by these other factors. Those are the real challenges with developing Dimension, overcoming those additional problems such as dust, insects, objects in the room, and still being able to detect that tiny amount of light that gets scattered by smoke from the emitter back to that infrared light receiver. So we had to put in additional sensors. So additional optical sensors are built in, and they can detect if there's someone putting their fingers in front of the detector, if there's insects flying around in front of the detector. And we use a bit of intelligence to combine the signals from these multiple optical sensors and determine if what we're seeing is smoke from a fire or some other kind of nuisance source. So what do we do if we detect a nuisance? It depends on the type of nuisance. So if we measure dust on the window, we can signal that back to the panel as a dirt reading, or if the dirt level is too high as a trouble signal. And then the user can take action. In the case of dirt, they can go back with a cloth and give it a wipe, and update the reading and get a clean signal. If it's something more malicious, like someone's covered up the detector to try and prevent it detecting smoke, we can signal a fault signal back to the panel, and then the user can take appropriate action then, depending on how they want to set up their device and their panel. So in a nutshell, that's how Dimension works.
As you can see, the device not only has the ability to detect smoke, but also the ability to detect foreign objects in front of the device, including solid and moving objects, and this is confirmed by the device passing the requirements of the new EN54 Part 7 standard, which includes tests for static and moving objects. Also, as the device has an internal isolator, it passes the EN54 Part 17 isolator tests and is approved by the following approval bodies: LPCB in the UK and Ireland, VDS in Germany, BOSEC in Belgium, FG is the Norwegian certified body, SBSC is a Swedish approval body, making this product internationally recognised. Also, by the end of 2021, the device will have its UK CA approval as well. The chamberless design eliminates dust and insect ingress. Its intelligent sensing technology reduces false alarms, and it can be fully integrated with core protocol. Its ideal applications include hotels, galleries, restaurants and shopping centres, designer shops like Stella McCartney in London, and also high-end residential. Soteria Dimension was even spotted in an episode of Grand Designs on Channel 4 in a luxury residence. Soteria Dimension Specialist shares all of the features of the standard version, but includes additional features and certifications surrounding anti-tamper and anti-ligature applications. It has a shock-resistant faceplate secured with anti-tamper screws. It has also been designed and tested to meet the specific anti-ligature requirements. It is currently undergoing extensive testing under a hydrogen peroxide vapour atmosphere. To date, no false alarms have been recorded during the HPV cleaning, and it has clocked approximately 800 cycles, which is the equivalent of 8.5 years based on 2 deep cleans a week. Soteria Dimension Specialist is an ideal device for mental health units, care homes, hospital specialist care rooms including segregation areas, prisons and custodial suites. It excels in applications that cater to the most vulnerable in care and custody. Health and well-being are paramount in mental health establishments, and there have been many cases where the fire detection system has been attributed to a patient being harmed or the patient harming others. There is a provision within the Mental Health Act of 1983 as to custody, conveyance and detention to provide detection for these people for their safety and well-being. As we move on to an example of a case study, this is the Edgware Community Hospital, where 17 high-security bedrooms are protected by Soteria Dimension specialist. This is one of many examples of Soteria Dimension in mental health. In this particular example, we can see that the device mounted above the bed and is installed with a 500mm clearance all the way around the device, including walls, light fittings, and tops of doors, etc. We advise this for best practice to avoid unwanted faults. For custodial, there are additional tests required to be undertaken to meet the requirements of the Ministry of Justice specification Spec 38. To do this, we built a flat-pack prison cell within our fire lab and completed the tests shown below for this environment. The device itself passed the requirements for all of these tests, making it suitable for these custodial areas. Thanks for listening, and for more information on Soteria Dimension, please visit our website at apollo-fire.co.uk.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to FIREX Tech Talks. Gosh, this morning has absolutely flown by. I don't know about anybody else. How are we on our last Q&A already? We hope you enjoyed our final tech talk this morning by Mike Sutton from Advanced, and I'm now joined by Mike for a Q&A. So get posting your questions. Don't be shy. You can also upvote a question if you see one that you'd like the answer to. So get those questions flowing in, as Mike's definitely ready for action. So Mike's, great to meet you. Great to have you here. Thank you so much. Sorry, did I say from Advanced? You're from
You
Apollo.
did, never mind, I'll let that one go.
Sorry, Apollo. I'm not letting it go. Very naughty of me. So, Mike, you're from Apollo. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
So, as we wait for people to kind of rejoin the link here, maybe you could just give us a brief recap of your talk.
Yeah, so basically the Dimension device is a flush mount, anti-ligature and vandal resistant device, pretty much of two versions. There's a commercial version, which is the aesthetically looking nice version, and then there's the anti-ligature and vandal resistant version, which is more predominantly for healthcare and custodial environments. And then we were just looking at the siting for that device, where we would install it, the sort of areas we need to avoid, because there are a couple of those. And then just going through the certifications as the device is fully certified as well.
Fantastic. Okay, so what does chamberless technology mean?
So basically, it gives us the ability to have a flush mounted device. The device itself has a 5mm profile. So as you look at the ceiling, your eyes aren't drawn to the device. It doesn't hang below the ceiling as such, which means the architects seem to like it quite a lot more as well.
Fits in with their streamlined vision.
Absolutely, yeah.
So does Dimension cover the same area as a standard smoke detector?
So in most cases, it will follow exactly the same rules as you would use within 5839 for all of your standard devices. There are a couple of exceptions where sometimes you would get away with putting a standard detector closer to a wall. There is a technical requirement on Dimension that means it must be at least 500mm away from the wall. And that's one of the few items that are different between Dimension and a standard device.
Okay, thank you. So why did you choose to shine the infrared light source outside of the detector, and what are the benefits of this?
The biggest single benefit is the fact that we don't have to have the physical chamber. So by having the infrared coming out of the device, we have the ability then to use the virtual chamber, which is effectively the room that the device is in. And that gives us the ability then to have the flush mounted device.
Okay, thank you. So how easy are the detectors to install, and is there anything that these guys should know when they're fitting them?
So in terms of installation, they're pretty straightforward. The only thing to remember is there's a 70mm depth on the back box, but that can be terminated below the ceiling and then installed above. It's a 114mm hole that you have to drill into the ceiling, and the only thing to remember with that is to use a hole saw and don't use the equivalent of a pad saw, so you get a nice clean hole. We found some of the beta testing quite a while ago now that if you haven't got a perfectly round hole, it can get caught when you're trying to get the device out again, which can cause you problems further down the road.
Okay, it sounds really simple to install. So what is the price of the detectors?
So I can't actually give you a price as it stands
Oh, why
because,
not?
well, because we tend to work directly with a small, limited number of system integrators, but the device is available from our distribution chain. So please contact your normal source of products, and you'll be able to get a price direct from them.
That sounded like a politician's answer, that
Well,
did.
it was almost, wasn't it?
Do the detectors work with fire systems from other vendors, for example, panels?
Yeah, so panel-wise, as long as it's an open protocol Apollo protocol panel, it will work. The device will operate effectively as far as XP95, and it will function as an XP95 device. We could go backwards further and take it to a Series 90 device, but that's pre-1992, so that's probably now too old. In terms of other panels, it won't work on any closed protocol panels. It will only work on an Apollo-based open protocol panel.
Okay, right, good to know. Thank you. So can I mount this on the wall in a hotel room, for example?
So that's a really good question. So that is one of the other limitations, because we've got the 500 millimeters clear around the device. You can't mount it on the wall because we won't achieve that 500 mil device around the device, and it's also not been certified in that plane as well. It's only been certified on the ceiling.
Okay, good to know. What response have you had from the market so far?
So we've had really, really positive response. Bizarrely, or what we thought was bizarrely, it's really found a home in high-end residential. The architects and the end users seem to really like it in those environments. It's doing very well in healthcare as well. So I lead the healthcare vertical within Apollo, and it's really finding a home within the mental health environment, but also other areas around the hospital where they have to have seclusion rooms and other areas like that. It fits very well into those areas. And then in high-end commercial, we're looking for just maybe one or two areas that are unique enough and want to have this device. So you'd have a boardroom, maybe your entrance lobby of your building, and also in hotels, as we said through the presentation, for those front of house areas where they're really unique. It works very well in those areas as well.
Oh, fantastic. Really diverse then. Thank you. So what certifications does it have?
So in terms of certification, it has obviously CE, LPCB in the UK, which also will be UKCA at the end of the year, VDS, which is the German certifications, BOSEC, FG, and SBSC currently.
Great. Okay. So are there likely to be many technical issues in installation if updating to these new panels?
No, because this device will work pretty much anywhere and on virtually all Apollo protocol panels. So it should just be a case of, if you wanted to, you could take out an old detector and put in one of these devices in its place, and it will work absolutely fine.
Great, thank you. So are there any specific requirements in healthcare that you're seeing for fire safety in general?
Healthcare at the moment, we're specifically seeing the use of this device in mental health because it's anti-ligature. Obviously, it passed all of its anti-ligature testing a couple of years ago. And that because they were trying to look after the patients at that point and their welfare. There's a lot of devices and few instances, unfortunately, where patients have actually caused harm to themselves by using the fire alarm system as a ligature point. So that's a really, really important place to bring this device and actually get it working in those areas, which we have done. And we've got some case studies of those as well to help the patients themselves and for their work safety and well-being.
Okay, thank you. So what type of demand are you seeing for the refined version?
So these devices will never take over the universe. They're never going to be the high runners that XP95 and Discovery are, obviously. But we are seeing a sustained growth in sales of the device as more and more people use it and understand it. The architects begin to like that device and know that's their point of call for a high-end residential or high-end commercial application.
Why was the design so important for this device?
There are lots of issues around having I take it you mean the physical device, or you mean the environment it's going into?
I think either, actually.
Okay, so the physical device itself, there are lots of problems around having a virtual chamber. There's lots of issues you have to overcome that you don't overcome over a standard device. So on a standard device, for instance, it's really easy to overcome somebody putting your hand on the device because you have a chamber. So it doesn't actually affect anything at all. With the flush device and the virtual chamber, if you put your hand over it, effectively you block that infrared light beams. So you must know whether something's happening along those lines. Therefore, we've built in proximity sensors so we can sense and adjust and allow for things getting in the way. So the device will go into a non-latching fault. And on core protocol, when we get to core protocol, that will be a proximity fault indicated on the panel. So when something starts to come in play with that device, we know about it, which is just one of the elements we had to overcome. In terms of the buildings themselves, the device can pretty much go anywhere as long as you've got a flat ceiling. So even in aesthetically really complicated buildings, we can still use this device to get the best looking smoke detector you can, really.
Brilliant. Well, as long as it works, that's the
It
main
does.
thing, isn't it?
We have the certification to prove it works.
Yeah,
as well.
exactly. So how is the routine testing maintenance carried out?
So the easiest way to do the routine testing is with a Solo 365 pole. And that's because we have the ability to use the ASD adapter, which allows the smoke to go to the ceiling at a right angle and then basically blow across the front of the device. So that's the easiest way. You can use it with the test gases, but it becomes a little bit more complicated because you have to keep giving a large number of small squirts of the gas in front of the device to maintain the right amount of smoke particles effectively in front of the device. And that also depends on which one of the 5 modes you set the device in. In mode 5, you're looking for up to 15 seconds to 30 seconds of that smoke being in front of the device, or the test gas being in front of the device, before it will go into alarm. And you've got to maintain that concentration of gas. That's why the 365 pole is the easiest solution to use.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mike. So how are these devices wireless? Are these devices wireless? And if so, how often do the batteries last? How long?
So the device is not wireless. It's purely wired, I'm afraid, because of the constraints of trying to make the device small and flush to the ceiling. It had to be wired. And there are currently no intentions to make a wireless version of it.
Okay, brilliant. Well, good to know. And finally, do you have any new products coming out in the coming months that our audience should keep an eye out for?
Yeah, there are some coming out.
Am I allowed to know about them?
Well, I probably shouldn't say I'll get in trouble for this, but hey, it's the way it goes. There is a new range of open air AV that's coming out later this year, which is sounders, sounder vids, and sounder vads and vids only. So that's something to look out for. They've been developed for quite some time. I think that's probably the single biggest thing that's coming out this year. There has been a software update to the test set. So if you've got a test set and you haven't updated your software, that's worth getting. And there's also a further update coming for that later this year, which actually give our engineers the ability to remotely connect to the test set and help diagnose stuff on site. So that's quite exciting because I'm quite a good fan of the test set.
Yeah, and really useful as well. I have actually had another question come in just before we finish, if that's okay with you. So what input, you talked about architects before and them loving it because they can integrate it into their designs. So what input have they had, and do they make any specific demands?
So everybody loves a good architect, apart from generally fire engineers. To be honest, the single biggest thing from them is the fact that it is flush to the ceiling. They want it in other colors and other finishes. They'll always want more than they've previously had. We are looking at other finishes and other colors in the future, but that's quite complicated because every color has to go through separate approvals at BRE, so it makes it quite costly and quite complicated. In terms of the architects, it's purely down to the aesthetics of the device, and it's so much better than having a standard device on the ceiling in terms of the aesthetics.
Well, fantastic. Mike Sutton from Apollo, thank you so much for your time and for being so fantastic in this chat. It's been really informative. And thank you very much again to Apollo. So that's all we've got time for in this Q&A. And actually for our tech talks today, that's the end of that. So we've really enjoyed this morning and hope you have too. Our further tech talks will be taking place at Connect 2021 from the 1st till the 30th of June. So make sure you check that out. And as effective as these online events have been, we are all desperate to get back to meeting face to face, which is why we're really excited for IFSEC International and FIREX International taking place on July the 12th to the 14th. And that's at Excel in London. Don't worry, fully COVID compliant. You can find out exactly what we're doing to be COVID compliant on the website. You can also find out and secure your place at both of those by heading to the IFSEC International or FIREX International website. Why wouldn't you? Stay safe and hopefully we'll see you all in person really soon. Thanks again, Mike, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Joe.